As soon as my husband boarded a plane to his mistress in Europe, I sprang my revenge. I always thought that if my marriage ended, it would be because we grew apart, not because my husband turned into a lying, cheating coward. We had been together for 12 years, married for 8, and I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who had to dig through messages or track her husband's whereabouts. But here I was, sitting at my desk with screenshots open on my laptop, feeling my stomach drop as I read through every disgusting detail of his affair. His name was Adam. To everyone else he was the perfect husband, successful, charming, the kind of man who could talk his way out of anything. And I had believed in him, blindly, stupidly. But I wasn't blind anymore. I had spent the last few weeks gathering every piece of evidence I could, playing the role of the oblivious wife while I pieced together the truth. He wasn't just having a fling. He had an entire relationship with a woman. Her name was Camille, and she lived in Paris. That was what made it even worse. He wasn't just sneaking around with someone from work or lying about a late-night meeting. He had been flying across the world to see her, using his work trips as an excuse. The messages were sickening. Him calling her mon amour, talking about how much he missed her, how he couldn't wait to hold her again. There were pictures, too, of them at cafes, in hotel rooms, even on a damn boat ride along the Seine. Meanwhile, I had been at home, cooking his meals, keeping our life together, while he was off playing romantic fantasy with her. But the best part? He thought he was getting away with it. Adam had told me he was leaving for a business trip in 3 days. That was a lie. I had already found his plane ticket confirmation, and it wasn't for a work trip at all. He was flying straight to Paris, straight into Camille's arms, probably thinking he could come home afterward and kiss me like nothing had happened. But that wasn't going to happen, because while he was on that plane, thinking he had pulled off the perfect betrayal, I was going to destroy his entire world. I spent the next few days acting like everything was normal. I kissed him goodbye when he left for work, made small talk at dinner, even let him complain about how stressful his upcoming business trip was. He had no idea that while he was packing his bags, I was packing too, not for a trip, but to move everything out of our house. The day before he left, I called a moving company and scheduled them for the exact moment his plane was scheduled to take off. I also had a locksmith booked, ready to change the locks the second everything was out. I wasn't just kicking him out, I was erasing him completely. But that wasn't all. I made sure to dig deeper, finding out everything I could about Camille. She was younger, French, and according to her social media, completely unaware that Adam was married. She posted about her amazing American boyfriend, about how she was counting down the days until she could see him again. She had no idea she was about to get the biggest reality check of her life. The night before his flight, Adam kissed me goodnight, like he hadn't spent the past several months sneaking around. I let him play his little game for one more night, knowing that when he landed, he'd have no idea what hit him. The next morning, he got up early, dressed in his usual work trip outfit, slacks, a button-up, the same cologne he wore every day. I stood in the kitchen, drinking my coffee, watching him act like the devoted husband he pretended to be. "I'll call you when I land," he said, grabbing his passport. I smiled. Safe travels. The moment the front door shut behind him, I went into action. The moving truck arrived right on time. I had already boxed up everything I wanted, leaving nothing but Adam's things behind. I took my clothes, my jewelry, my personal items. The furniture, the art, the expensive electronics, those were all mine. I had bought them, and there was no way in hell I was leaving anything valuable behind for him. By the time the last box was loaded, I was already on the phone with the locksmith. An hour later, the locks were changed and the security code was updated. Adam would return from his romantic getaway, only to find himself locked out of the home he thought was still his. But I wasn't done yet. While I had been preparing for my exit, I had also been preparing his downfall. Adam worked for a prestigious firm, a company that prided itself on integrity and professionalism. They were strict about personal conduct, especially when it came to company resources. And guess who had been using his work credit card for flights, hotels, and fancy dinners with his mistress? I compiled every piece of evidence I had, every charge that had nothing to do with work, every detail of his little vacations with Camille, and sent it all in an anonymous email to his boss. I didn't even need to write much. The screenshots spoke for themselves. Then I made sure Camille got the same treatment. I sent her a polite message with attachments letting her know exactly what kind of man she was dating. I even included a few receipts, just so she could see how often he had lied. I didn't know how she would react, but I hoped she'd kick his ass to the curb. By the time Adam's plane landed, I was already gone. I had checked into a beautiful hotel, poured myself a glass of champagne, and blocked his number. I wanted to give him time to realize what had happened. to land in Paris, excited to see Camille, only to check his phone and see his entire life crumbling in real time. He had no home, no wife, no job, and if Camille had any sense, no mistress either. I smiled as I took a sip of champagne, waiting for the inevitable meltdown, because this was only the beginning. I knew the second Adam landed because my phone started blowing up. Missed calls, voicemails, texts coming in back to back. I didn't read a single one. I didn't need to. I already knew exactly what was happening on his end. He had stepped off the plane in Paris, expecting to be greeted by Camille. Instead, he turned on his phone to find his life falling apart. The bank notifications about his credit cards being frozen, the furious emails from his boss, the messages from Camille, who by now had seen everything I sent her. And, of course, the realization that I had blocked him. It must have been a hell of a welcome. I let him stew in it for hours. I went to a spa, got a massage, treated myself to an expensive dinner, and turned off my notifications. It wasn't until later that night, curled up in my hotel bed, that I finally checked my messages. Not to respond, just to enjoy them. The first few texts were confused. Hey, there's something wrong with my card. Did you forget to pay the bill? Then panic. Why is the house locked? Where are you? By the time I scrolled down, the desperation had fully set in. Please, just talk to me. I don't understand what's happening. Oh, he understood. He just didn't want to accept it. Then came the voicemails. I played one, letting his voice fill the quiet hotel room. Lily, please, I know you're mad, but this is crazy. Just call me. We can fix this. Fix this? He wasn't even trying to deny what he had done. He knew he was guilty. He just hadn't expected me to react like this. I played another one. I just got off the phone with my boss. They're saying I misused company funds? What the hell did you do? I smiled. Good. He was starting to feel it. Another message. Camille won't answer my calls. What did you tell her? That one made me really happy. I clicked on Camille's messages next. Unlike Adam, she only sent one. You're disgusting. Don't ever contact me again. I laughed out loud. For months, Adam had been building a fantasy life with her, telling her sweet lies, making her believe she was special, that they were special. Now she knew the truth, and knowing French women, I wouldn't be surprised if she had met him at the airport just to slap him across the face. He had no mistress, no home, no money, and probably no job. And I wasn't even done yet. The next morning I had breakfast on a balcony overlooking the city, completely relaxed while Adam's life burned to the ground. Another wave of messages had come in overnight, all following the same pattern: confusion, anger, bargaining. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I forwarded everything to my lawyer. By now he would have realized that his credit cards were shut down. I had access to our accounts, and since they were only in my name, I had cut him off completely. His savings? Frozen. His emergency card? Cancelled. He had nothing but whatever cash he brought with him, which, knowing Adam, wasn't much. He relied on his cards for everything. I imagined him standing outside Camille's apartment, trying to buzz in, only to be ignored. Then, wandering through Paris, exhausted, stranded, realizing that every safety net he thought he had was gone. I wondered how long it would take him to figure out that his return ticket was also canceled, because oh yes, I had gone that far. I had booked his flight using our shared points. And guess who had access to those points? Me. I had called the airline the moment his plane took off and canceled his return. He had no way home. If he wanted to leave France, he was going to have to figure it out on his own. By the afternoon, I finally got a message that made me pause. It wasn't from Adam. It was from his mother. Lily, Adam just called me from some payphone in Paris. He says you locked him out and canceled his flights. Is this true? Ah, there it was. He was finally out of options, running to his mother for help, probably feeding her some sob story about how I had overreacted and ruined his life for no reason. I debated ignoring it, but then I decided, why not really drive the point home? I responded simply, yes, it's true, ask him why. Less than 10 minutes later, she replied, oh my God, I am so sorry, he told me everything, you didn't deserve this. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. Even his own mother wasn't on his side. That night, I had my first truly peaceful sleep in years. Adam was across the world, sitting in the mess he had created, and I was free. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the last I'd hear from him, that he'd accept his fate and disappear from my life for good. I was wrong, because 2 days later, I woke up to a new message. From an unknown number. You went too far. I hope you're happy. I stared at the screen for a long moment before deleting it. I was happy, but I wasn't done yet. Adam had officially hit rock bottom. But I wasn't done yet. He thought his nightmare was over just because he had managed to get in touch with his mother. But I knew him. I knew how his brain worked. He wasn't sorry for cheating. He wasn't sorry for lying. He was sorry that he got caught. And now that the initial shock had settled, he was probably already scheming, trying to figure out how to flip this on me. He wasn't going to get that chance. I ignored his pathetic text. He wanted me to feel guilty, to think I had gone too far. As if he hadn't gone too far the second he booked an international flight to see his mistress. I knew better than to engage, so I blocked the number and got back to enjoying my life. That afternoon, I met up with friends for lunch. They already knew everything. I had told them before I even confronted Adam, so the entire meal was spent celebrating my freedom. There was something surreal about it. Just days ago I had been a wife. Now I was completely on my own, and for the first time in years I loved it. But Adam? He was still trying to climb out of the pit he had dug himself into. I got another message later that evening, this time from an old mutual friend. Hey, just a heads up, Adam is trying to spin the story. He's telling people you emptied the bank accounts and stranded him in Paris for no reason. Of course he was. He couldn't admit the truth. That would mean taking responsibility, and Adam had never been capable of that. He was probably hoping that if he told the story enough times, someone would believe him. Maybe he thought I'd hear about it and panic, try to do damage control. Too bad for him. I had proof. I sent my friend a simple response. Don't worry, I already sent the receipts. Because I had. The night before, I had messaged a few key people in our circle, the ones who mattered, the ones who actually cared about the truth, and laid everything out. Screenshots of his messages with Camille. Proof that he had used our money to fund his little romantic getaways. The airline confirmation showing exactly when and where he was flying. Everything. Adam had spent our entire marriage carefully maintaining his image. He wanted to be seen as the charming, successful guy with the perfect wife and the perfect life. He wanted people to admire him, to think he was someone worth knowing. But now, everyone knew the truth. And his reputation? It was in ruins. By the next morning, I had another text from his mother. I just spoke to Adam again. He finally admitted what he did. I'm so ashamed of him. You don't have to worry about him coming back. I had to read that one twice. Not only was she not defending him, but she was actually disowning him. She had always been a sweet woman, but I never expected her to turn her back on her own son. Then again, Adam had always been her golden boy. If even she was disgusted by his actions, that told me everything I needed to know. I responded with a polite thank you. I appreciate that. And just like that, Adam had nowhere to go. I thought that was the end of it. I had my clean break, he was out of my life, and everything was settling into place, but Adam? He wasn't finished. He had one last card to play. A few nights later, I was curled up on my couch sipping wine when my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the best of me. I opened the message. I know we've never met, but I think we need to talk. I'm Adam's ex before you. I stared at the screen. This had to be a joke. Adam had never mentioned an ex before me. I had always assumed I was his first serious relationship. But the message didn't stop there. He did the same thing to me. The lying, the cheating, everything. I saw what happened and wanted to reach out. I think you deserve to know the full story. I needed to know more. I texted back, tell me everything. What she told me made my blood run cold. Adam had been engaged before me. Engaged. I had never known that. He had proposed to this woman, made promises to her, planned a future with her, and then he had cheated on her too, not just once but repeatedly. He had lied to her, manipulated her, and when she found out, he made her feel like the crazy one. When she finally left him, he made sure no one believed her side of the story. He spun it so well that she was the one who lost mutual friends. And then, once she was fully out of the picture, he found me. I felt sick. I had spent years believing that Adam and I had built something special, that even when things weren't perfect, we had something real. But now I realized I was just part of a pattern, a cycle. He had never loved me. I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening around my phone. I could have let it go. I had already won. He had lost everything. But now that I knew the truth, that I was just one name on a long list of women he had played, that wasn't good enough. I took a deep breath and started typing. Would you be willing to help me ruin him for good? Her response came instantly. Absolutely. This wasn't over, not yet. The plan was already in motion. His job was gone, his reputation had been torched, his mother had cut him off. Camille had humiliated him publicly, but I wasn't done, not yet. With the help of his ex, I made sure everyone knew the full truth. She had old emails and messages from years ago, proof that Adam had been running the same game long before I ever met him. He had never been faithful, not to me, not to her, and likely not to anyone before us. I sent everything to the people who still mattered in his professional circle. The old colleagues, the business connections, the industry friends who might have been tempted to give him a second chance. One by one, doors slammed shut in his face. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about making sure he couldn't do this again. He had spent his entire life manipulating people, charming them just enough to get away with it, but now? Now, every time he tried to weasel his way into another opportunity, someone was there to warn them first. His name became a cautionary tale. And then, the final blow. Adam's lease in Paris had been temporary, set up for his business trips that were really just weekends with Camille. Now that everything had unraveled, he had nowhere to stay. He was bouncing between cheap hostels, trying to figure out his next move. His credit was shot, his accounts were empty. That's when he started reaching out again. At first, he tried to guilt me. He sent emails telling me how cruel I had been, how I had ruined his life, how no one deserved to be punished this way. Then, when I didn't respond, he switched tactics. "Lily, we were married for years. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Can't we just talk?" No, we couldn't. Then came the desperate attempts. "I have no way home. Can you at least help me get a plane ticket back?" I almost laughed. He had used our money to fly across the world to cheat on me, and now he wanted my help getting back? Absolutely not. I deleted the message and blocked the email. The next time I heard from him, it wasn't directly. A friend texted me, "Adam is back." I blinked at the screen. How? His mom caved and paid for his flight, but she's not letting him stay with her. She told him he's on his own. That made me smile. Even she was done with him. I didn't care that he was back in the country. He had no job, no home, no money, and no connections left. He was just another man who had lost everything because he thought he was too smart to get caught. But still, he didn't disappear like he should have. One night, weeks after he had returned, I walked out of a restaurant with a friend and saw someone standing across the street, half hidden in the shadows. I knew it was him before he even moved. He had lost weight, his clothes were wrinkled, and he just stood there, watching. He wanted me to see him. I didn't react. I didn't stop walking. I didn't give him the satisfaction of acknowledging his existence. I just kept moving forward, because I had won, and he had nothing.